Hey everybody, Serenade here, and we got our first episode of our new series here called Nucks and Crannies. Basically, Nucks, because Vancouver Canucks, obviously, and Crannies, for all the little details around the league and around surrounding the Canucks. The first episode here is going to be talking about the moves that the Canucks made at this year's NHL trade deadline. The first trade that happened was between Vancouver and the Vegas Golden Knights, which ended up sending Philip Holm to the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for left winger Brendan Leipsic. First of all, let's talk about what we ended up giving up in the trade. 26-year-old defenseman from Sweden, Philip Holm. He's playing the AHL for pretty much the majority of the season, having some decent offensive numbers. But overall, he was an older player, 26 years old, as I already said, and a contract that is going to be expiring, and you never know what's going to happen with that. He didn't have too much opportunity with the Canucks to play in an NHL role until late in the season in one game against the Vegas Golden Knights, who ultimately he ended up being traded to. Jim Benning was in a press conference after the trade deadline, and he ended up mentioning a couple of things about this. Jim Benning had no idea he was going to get Derek Pouliot, and part of the reason that Holm didn't get an opportunity is basically because Pouliot took his spot. And not just Pouliot, we had a lot of other defensemen that were coming around. Ben Hutton, Troy Stetcher, the guy that we just signed, Michael Del Zotto, and then of course all of our other names like Chris Tanev and Alex Edler and Alex Biega. There really wasn't any room for Philip Holm, so we gave him some time in the AHL. We didn't get much opportunity. And in return, we ended up getting Brendan Leipsic. At 23 years old, Brendan Leipsic has 1 year left after this year and is going to be a restricted free agent, meaning that we can keep his rights and he'll still be a young player. Whereas Philip Holm was a pending UFA and we don't know what could have happened with him after this season. Looking at Leipzig's stats from when he played in Vegas this year on capfriendly.com, he had 44 games played this year, 13 points, 2 goals and 11 assists, pretty respectable, playing in around normally a third or fourth line role with Vegas, so not too bad. He had some pretty close to point per game stats in the AHL years before with the Toronto Marlies. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, he had a couple stints. He actually scored his first goal, fun fact, against the Vancouver Canucks. All in all, Brendan Leipsic isn't a bad pickup, and he's still young, and he has some offensive upside, a bit smaller, but he's a competitive battler, and it seems there's a reason that Jim Benning liked him. Moving on, Jim Benning's last trade at the deadline involved Thomas Vanek being shipped off to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Thomas Vanek, at 34 years old, put up some pretty good numbers for his age, and playing with Brock Besser, he really didn't look out of place. But a lot of teams really weren't interested in a guy like him, so the fact that we were able to move him for Tyler Mott, I was okay with that. A couple of years ago, in a playoff run with Montreal, he had 5 goals and 10 points in 17 games. He really didn't look that bad, and I thought that that was the reason that a lot of teams didn't like him, was because he wasn't a playoff performer, but just his style. I think Thomas Vanek is very similar to Radim Vrbata in a way that he really was more of a one-dimensional player. Not to say that Thomas Vanek hasn't improved his game over the past couple of years, but he still really is that only one-dimensional scoring player. Not quite as fast as he used to be, not an amazing defensive player. You won't see him win the Selke Trophy anytime soon, but overall he just wasn't a player that other teams wanted. It really wasn't a loss to get Tyler Mott for him because he was a pending UFA and we could have lost Thomas Vanek for nothing. A lot of people are saying he really likes it in Vancouver, so if we really want, we could re-sign him, and that's why this could also work out for us. But at the same time, we really don't know what's going to happen with Thomas Vanek. But anyways, we got a younger player for him. In exchange, we ended up acquiring 34-year-old veteran Jussi Jokinen and 22-year-old Tyler Mott. So Jussi Jokinen, he's a pending UFA at around a $1.1 million cap hit for just the rest of the season. And basically, he was part of a hockey deal, and he was for depth, as Benning said. I doubt that Jim Benning was really interested in Jussi Jokinen. He probably didn't go up and say, hey, Jarmo, how would you like to trade us to your 34-year-old pending UFA veteran who's been on 4 different teams this year? Yes, Jussi Jokinen has been on 4 different teams. Jussi Jokinen went from Edmonton to LA to Columbus and then to Vancouver. I doubt that's how he planned it, and I doubt that Benning was really interested in a guy who had been to that many teams. The guy that Jim Benning really did go after was 22-year-old center Tyler Mott. Now, Tyler Mott is going to be turning 23 in March, and a lot of people don't really like the fact that we got Vanek for a 23-year-old player as opposed to draft picks. Here's the thing, Tyler Mott is the same situation with Brendan Leipsic. He has one more year left after this, and he will be a pending RFA that year. So we got two younger, faster, skilled players that Benning really likes. I don't see how we lose here. Now, some people are saying Tyler Mott really doesn't look that great. He's more likely going to be a depth player than anything, but he really is still young at 23 years old. His numbers the past couple seasons haven't been fantastic, but if you look only a couple years ago when he played for the University of Michigan, he ended up having 32 goals in 38 games. Pretty impressive numbers, and later on that year, he ended up playing for the Rockford Ice Hogs, Chicago Blackhawks farm team, and he put up point per game numbers. So this is where I first heard of Tyler Mott, and he was supposed to be a pretty decent player, and his numbers again haven't looked that amazing, not point per game like at the NHL level. He has played this year in 31 games for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He had 3 goals, 2 assists, and 5 points. He was actually one of the pieces that came along in the Brennan Saad for Artemi Panarin trade. All in all, these are two young players that could look to be in the Canucks lineup for the end of this season and for next year, and I really don't mind it. Both Leipsic and Mott are young, faster, skilled players that are competitive, and that's why Jim Benning actually went after them. I'm going to link the press conference that Jim Benning spoke in down below, so make sure you guys go check that out if you want to learn more and see what Benning had to real say. But in a nutshell, Benning basically said that the Canucks are looking to get younger, faster, more skilled, and harder to play against, and that's why he went after these two players. He said he tried to get more picks, he would have liked to, but they really weren't available. And I find that potentially hard to believe, as he may have had some like really awful offers, maybe a 6th or 7th, and I know some people are saying that it could be worth it to go after those draft picks instead. You can have a bunch of draft picks. You can have like the world of draft picks. And if you don't have a crystal ball, you're not going to get any guarantees. Jim Benning was flexible. He thought these were guys that we could acquire that were young, skilled, fast, all of the above players, and that's why he got them. Benning is going to be patient, but he's going to let the young guys come in and see where they're at. Benning didn't want to trade guys like Sutter and Tanev because they're veterans, they're leaders for the young guys, and they're going to teach these kids what the NHL is all about. You need to have some players to stay competitive. The NHL standings can flip over in a year just like that, and really keeping guys like Tanev and Edler and Sutter, that will make us be able to make a push for next year's playoff run if we really want to. I say playoff run like we're actually going to make it far, but it'll be unlikely that we actually make the playoffs. So once again, press conference is going to be in the link in the description down below. Make sure you go check that out. I'm going to end off this first episode here. Let me know what you thought of the Canucks moves and if they're going to be better for next season. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button. It is greatly appreciated. Make sure you're subscribed and you hit that notification bell so then you do not miss out on any of our next episodes. And with that, I'm going to end off the video here. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next episode.